from our International Affairs Desk is joining me now. Shirley, we're going to talk a little bit about Israeli society. I mean, how do you think it's changed over the last few years?
Well, Israelis all say that the country has changed entirely since October 7th, and that October 7th is not over yet. It was like suspended in time, perhaps until the hostages return, or maybe far later, because people are still traumatized by what has happened. Now, by the events, the atrocities, the scope of the attack, but also by the fact that they felt completely helpless, that security forces were completely lost, and then learning that, in fact, there were so many indications that this was a plan, that Hamas was preparing this, and that all these indications and all these elements were completely brushed aside by security officials and likely also by political officials, but we still don't know everything because there's still no investigation. So this is a society that is marking today these attacks, and people who have lost loved ones on October 7th say that today is not a time to focus on perhaps on intelligence problems, but really on what happened on that day and the victims, remembering the victims, because in recent days, was more momentum talking about the deal that could be sealed soon, perhaps the end of the war, the return of the hostages. And some people were rewriting today's speeches for today's commemorations. But families are saying, don't rewrite the speeches. Let's focus on the victims. And even a few days ago, families of victims have been across Europe and elsewhere talking to people, protesting, marching, and saying, don't forget our loved ones that died on that day.
One thing that we don't talk about much here on France 24 is opposition in Israel. I mean, where is the opposition at the moment? And if they were to be able to come to power, I mean, might we see very different policies coming in?
Yes, very good question. Where are they and what would they do different? Because even when you look at opinion polls asking people, what do you think of those leaders? Well, few leaders are mentioned and they have pretty low approval ratings. And people are saying, what are you suggesting? And what are you talking about? What is the plan? Well, when we look at previous wars, of course, not as deadly as this one, well, the center, talk often about Yair Lapid, about Benny Gantz. Those people have also carried out wars to lash out, to try and weaken Hamas. And they were part of this large coalition, Benny Gantz, at the beginning. So probably they would have done the same thing, and the approach would probably be similar. But they wouldn't have the same far-right allies as Benjamin Netanyahu has today. These allies who allow him to remain in power and who are not only talking about the Palestinians with the statements we've heard before, but trying and hoping, planning to rebuild settlements in the Gaza Strip. So that's something we will not see from the opposition, today's opposition. Something they're very unlikely to talk about is a two-state solution. That's obvious. That's something that Netanyahu excludes outright, but also centrists exclude this outright. And actually, we saw really a shift to the right in recent years, especially since October 7th, with Israel really traumatized and saying that Palestinian state is, for them, not only not a priority, but really not in the agenda anytime soon. For them, it would be a reward to Hamas. That's how most Israelis see this. And they think that the idea now is try to end this war and trying to bring some stability.
Shirley, thanks very much. Shirli Sitbon from our International Affairs Desk there.